Hey guys, it's your old pal Tony Giles TG here, back with another episode of The Record Room. In fact, this is episode lucky number 7. So for this one, I thought I'd do something a little bit different and something I've seen some other record collector shows on the internet and just social media in general doing. And that's taking a look at the most expensive records in your collection. And I say expensive like this because expense and rarity are two different things and they don't necessarily marry up. Something can be expensive but not particularly rare, and you can also have something that's rare but not particularly expensive. And now when it comes to record collecting, the way I've always looked at it and will continue to always look at it is something is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Yes, it could be super limited. There could only be 3 copies in the world. But if only one person wants it, well, that just means that there's more copies out there than are necessary. So with the things I'm about to show you, yes, they are considerably rare, I would say. Most of them are, but everything I'm about to show you is widely available on different things. So the actual material is easy to find, but in the editions I have, or the versions I have, they're somewhat rare and somewhat collectible. And I'm going to start at number 5 and work my way up to number 1. And who knows, if you guys enjoy this video, maybe I'll do a number 10 to number 5 as well. Again though, everything in this video, it's all from my collection. I didn't necessarily pay what it's now selling for. There are some things in here that I did pay good money for, but at the end of the day, collecting is a very subjective thing, and what's rare to me may be worthless to you and vice versa. So without further ado, let's kick things off now with my number 5 rarest or most expensive record. Let's go with the most expensive. And the way I've worked out these, the list is by using Discogs, which I think is what most people do. And I'm actually using the median figure rather than the highest. I'm going to use the median figure because that seems the most, the fairest way to do things. So number 5 is the Misfits 45 for Halloween and Halloween 2. Now this came out in 1981, I believe, around then. I picked this up probably, I'd say almost 10 years ago now. And at the time, it was expensive at the time, but it's nowhere near as expensive as it's kind of going for now. And I think that's probably to do with the resurgence of the Misfits, Danzig joining up with the two brothers and kind of going out on the road again, somewhat sporadically, but also, the Misfits are back and there are younger fans now that are getting into record collecting and they want to own original material. And things like this are becoming harder and harder to come by, and I'm just super stoked to have this in my collection. This is my favorite Misfits 7-inch. It's the only original Misfits vinyl I own. I own everything the Misfits have done, but this is the only original I have. And this version is pretty cool because it does come with the original insert, which was a lyric sheet as well. So that's the front cover. You have the pretty cool Halloween pumpkin on the back. And then this was literally an orange piece of paper that was photocopied with the lyrics. But as you can see there, you may have to get close to the screen, but these are the lyrics for Halloween. So even back in the day, Danzig was thinking, well, if you want to sing along with Uncle Glenn, you can. Bonfires burning bright, pumpkin faces in the night. I remember Halloween. And this is just cool. You do see copies of this around now that don't have the insert. I'm guessing at the time, some people collected these, some people, they got misplaced or just waylaid, or, I believe there are certain copies that didn't actually even come with the insert. And the 7-inch itself, plain black vinyl on Player 9 Records, Halloween 1 on one side and Halloween 2 on the other. And it sounds great for a record that's as old as it is and probably did see a fair few plays in its lifetime. I have to say that it's really cool. It sounds great. I do still play this, and in fact with all the records I'm about to show you, some of you may find that kind of bonkers, but I do actually play them if I want to listen to them. There's a couple there that I have different variants of, so I may not particularly use that version, but I do still listen to everything I have. And that was my number 5, and I'm going to use my trusty bat phone here to tell you now that the median price on Halloween from the Misfits, that is £281.88, which that is an obscene amount of money to pay for a 7-inch. Luckily enough, I didn't pay that much for it when I did buy it, so I guess I can be happy in that. But I just think it's cool having an original Misfits 45, especially when it just happens to be my favourite song. So I've got pick number 4, and also pick number 3 as well, happen to be from the same band. And these are the newest artists, I would say, in my most expensive records. And at the time of buying these records, they weren't anywhere near the price that they are selling for now. And in fact, my number 4 is the Elizabeth 7-inch by the band Ghost. Now, this version here, this is the second time I've bought this. Originally, when Ghost first came around, I'm going to tell you a tale now, I really got into Ghost pretty much from the get-go. I was at the Live Evil Festival for their first show. I saw every London show I could get to, and I was just obsessed with the band. And even to this day, I'm such a big fan now. I actually have a Ghost tattoo on my thumb. I'm a big, big fan of the band Ghost. But when they first came around, there wasn't really much to collect apart from the Elizabeth 45, and I think the album had just come out or was just coming out, so I was kind of buying what I could. And at the time, I managed to track down the Elizabeth 45 on black vinyl, and I also owned the red vinyl version with black smoke on it. I had these records for maybe a year or two, and unfortunately times became tough, and I ended up selling them to pay my rent. And at the time, I didn't regret it that much. Now I kind of do, because the red version is insanely expensive, but I wanted to have an original Elizabeth back in the collection, so I managed to track down a copy of the black vinyl version, which is the version I have here. And even now, this record, I mean, Ghost have become one of the biggest bands now in the alternative rock, alternative music scene. I think this record, the prices this commands now online, I don't think it's actually worth it. I really don't. It's nice to have an original piece, but these records are selling for insane amounts of money, like 4 figures sometimes, which I just don't know if it's worth that. And also it's widely bootlegged as well, so you need to be careful when you're buying a copy online to make sure that it actually is a real copy. But I do love the artwork on this. I really do. Nice picture of Elizabeth Bathory there. Lyrics on the back for Elizabeth and the Death Knell track. And this was actually released on Iron Pegasus. This was before the band signed to Rise Above. And then obviously before they went on to sign with Loma Vista Universal. But it's a really nice 7-inch. And the disc itself, like I say, I have the black vinyl version, but I think there are 3 different versions. Black, red with black smoke, and I believe there is also a clear version as well. And what's kind of cool about this is the versions that are on this 45, they are different from the versions that would end up on the album. So this is more like a demo, or a first attempt, shall we say. And weirdly enough, these tracks are cut at 33. They would have fit at 45. I'm not entirely sure why they were cut at 33, but they were. So that's number 4 on my list. And like I say, I don't believe it's worth the money out there, but let's consult the bat phone once again and see what Discogs say. Wow. Discogs says the median price on Ghost's Elizabeth is £296.32. And I can tell you now, I paid nowhere near that, even though I bought this much later than my original copy. I think the first copy I bought of this single cost me about £40, which at the time was kind of expensive, but it was an original Ghost thing and I wanted it, so, I bit the bullet and paid the £40. Knowing what I know now, I would have been on the hunt for many copies of that record. But there you go, so almost £300 is the median price now on the Ghost Elizabeth 7-inch. And as I said before, my number 3 pick is also from the band Ghost as well, but this time it's actually a copy of their debut LP, Opus Eponymous, which was released by Rise Above Records in the UK. And I remember the day this album came out, I went to my local HMV. I was working in central London at the time, and I got to HMV and I was just looking for the CD. I didn't expect there to be kind of vinyl yet, but I went looking for the CD and they didn't have it. And being in London, I thought, okay, well, that's, you know, one branch. There's going to be other record stores around. So I remember after work going out trying to track down the album, and nobody had a copy, and I just could not believe why. You know, this band meant so much to me. I was so excited to hear the rest of the, you know, the material they had available. And unfortunately, no record stores had the album. So Opus Eponymous was actually the first album I ever downloaded from iTunes. And yeah, I mean, as soon as I heard the album, I was just blown away with everything about it and just fell in love with the band even more, if that's possible at the time. But what's cool about this version is, and this was released in many variants when it first came out, and is still being released in many variants now. I think I probably have maybe 7 or 8, maybe even 10 copies of this album, just different versions I've collected over the years, some original presses and some later presses as well. But this version here, what's cool about this is the Die Hard box set version. I think it's classed as a box set. It's not really a box set, it comes with a slipcover. But this is the Die Hard version, which came on black vinyl. And back in the day, this was the only way you can get this album on black vinyl. I'm not even sure now. Maybe there is a black vinyl version now, but this version is on 180 gram black vinyl. And me being a black vinyl purist, for me it was like, that's the version I want. But what's cool about this version is it comes in this really nice slipcase. And this was released in edition of 300. And I think at the time of the album coming out, a lot of the copies that were shipped overseas, they ended up getting some kind of minor dings in them. Mine has a very minor crease at the top, but it's really, this is the best shaped copy I've ever seen. And I was fortunate enough to pay nowhere near what this is now selling for. With the box set, or with the Die Hard edition, you got the album on black vinyl. You also received a giant poster. I won't fold this out because it is actually huge and I couldn't fit it all in, but it's basically a really large picture of the album cover. And you also got this really nice logo patch with the ghost in purple, which I don't know has ever been replicated officially. It's probably been bootlegged, but this came with the Die Hard version. And I've seen copies of the Die Hard version of Opus Eponymous on Discogs now, and on eBay as well, where people are selling the box and the record, but not the poster or the patch. I don't know why, maybe it's me, but if an album comes with various different things, posters, patches, key rings, different bits and pieces, I tend to kind of keep them together or just, you know, store them away somewhere. I don't ever tend to use the additional products. Maybe that's silly of me, but I already have a ghost patch on my jacket, so I don't need to use that one. So yeah, but again, it's a personal preference thing. It's not going to be for everybody. But according to the Bat Phone, Discogs Opus Eponymous limited edition box Die Hard version, the median price on this one is £433.06, which is an insane amount of money to pay for this record when you can walk in most record stores across the UK and all over the world and grab yourself a copy of that album. So it really comes down to how much of a fan you are, how much of a collector you are, and if you want to pay that for it. Okay, so the one and only soundtrack in my top 5. Now, there's probably a few of you out there that are watching this that already have a very good idea of what this record is, and at the time of purchasing this, it was in a really, really limited edition number-wise. That wasn't the reason why I chose this version. I did end up buying other versions of it as well. I wanted it for kind of the novelty factor at the time, and was very fortunate enough to get one because I know that everybody and their friend were online at the same time, all trying to grab a copy of this one particular album. And the album in question, my number 2, is Friday the 13th by Harry Manfredini, released by the folk at Waxwork Records. And the album itself comes with the standard sleeve, which has the regular gatefold. And I even have a ding in the top of my sleeve here, but I'm not that fussed because I know if I buy another copy, I'll get a copy of the sleeve. The sleeve isn't kind of the selling point for me here. No, the record itself is what drew me to it and is now one of my most prized possessions, and buying this again now would cost a fairly insane amount of money, I would say. And the reason this version is so collectible or is so desired by soundtrack collectors and horror fans alike is because this version, he says holding it very delicately, this is the Friday the 13th blood-filled version. Or it's not blood, I hope it's not blood, but this is a liquid-filled record, and as you can see as I'm spinning this, the blood or liquid inside the record moves around. Now it doesn't really do that when you're listening to the record. It doesn't move that way, but this record, I believe it was originally supposed to come out in an edition of 100 copies. But Kevin from Waxwork said that due to damages in freight and just, various other things that had happened, there ended up being something closer to, I think it was 60 or 65 copies. So this is a very rare as in number record, and also very rare as in price as well, because this thing is not cheap. And I'm happy to say that I actually bought it on release, and I believe it cost me $65 at the time, plus shipping, which again, even when those records were on sale, Waxwork was selling them at a loss because they cost more than $65 to make. Liquid records are not cheap to make any way you look at them. But you add in the rarity of it, the fact that it's a franchise horror film, the fact that it's a great score as well it becomes a moot point almost. But all of these things combined make this now one of the most desirable records amongst soundtrack fans and horror collectors out there that just want to have, the blood-filled record. And the last time I checked on this, it almost amazed me how much this record sells for. And again, the prices on Discogs are prices that things have actually sold for. So it's not like I'm just pulling these numbers out and saying, oh, it's worth this much. No, these are prices that things have actually sold for. And the median price on this record, according to Discogs, is £656, which is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And the highest price on this, I have to tell you this, the highest price on this, almost can't believe it, £819. And there we go, folks, from number 4 to number 2 of my most expensive records according to Discogs. And before I reveal the number 1 record, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It's much, much appreciated. If you're watching this on YouTube, why not go ahead and give us a thumbs up and hit that big red subscribe button. And if you've enjoyed this episode so much and you'd like to support the Record Room and check out everything we do up front, all you need to do is visit us over on Patreon, which you can do by clicking the link in the video. For just $1 per month, you get every episode of the Record Room early, get to take part in viewer polls, ask me questions, and just all kind of general record-related shenanigans. But without further ado, let's get on to my number 1 most expensive record. And again, like Friday the 13th, this one is fairly rare. But saying that, I think the original pressing numbers were 1,000 copies, which, nowadays 1,000 copies is a pretty good run if you ask me. But back when this record came out, I think pressing 1,000 copies may have actually seemed like a little bit too much. But the record has gone on to have a long-lasting legacy, and as far as I'm concerned, this record will only ever increase in value. I do not see this going down in value at any point. So as an investment, it's not a bad idea. My number 1 most expensive record is a first press Mayhem Deathcrush. Oh yes. Now, as you may have been be aware, if you've been watching the Record Room for a little while, when I hold up the records, even though the guns are out today, you may see I have a rather large tattoo on my right arm that says black metal, and this is actually a replica of the black metal paint, as it were, in the basement of the Helvete record shop that was run by Euronymous from Mayhem. And that was kind of like the meeting place or the hub of early black metal in the early 90s in Norway, in Oslo. In fact, this is more commonly referred to as the second wave of black metal, but as far as I'm concerned, when I think of black metal, this is kind of what I think of. And this record is kind of almost the one that started it all, even though I wouldn't technically class this as strictly black metal. The music is more thrash inspired, but the vocals are definitely kind of a black metal leaning. I will say that. And how this record came about, my wife and I, for my 40th birthday, we went to Norway. We visited Norway for a vacation and, to celebrate my impending doom. And while we were there, we took a trip to the Helvete store that's now open as Nisblod Records. And essentially, it's crammed with records, and there are some amazing memorabilia on the wall. And going there, I almost wanted to buy, something original, something rare, but there wasn't anything that really kind of stood out to me that much there. And to be perfectly honest, the records are so packed in there, you can barely see anything. So I ended up buying a couple of shirts and took some nice pictures, and that was it, kind of on my way. And then through a friend, after I'd been to Norway, I kind of put the feelers out a little bit that I was looking for something, and he came up with this, which I believe was actually his copy. And it was expensive, I won't lie, it was a very expensive album, but since buying it, I haven't regretted it for 1 minute because, one, I love it, which is the most important thing, and I absolutely love the Deathcrush EP. Like I say, it's more thrash than anything else, and I loves me some thrash, I really do. And it's hard to be subjective about this record because I really do see it as the starting point of black metal. And even though the cover's pink, when I don't think it was originally meant to be, I believe it was originally supposed to be black, but every version or every original copy of Deathcrush has also been handwritten on by Euronymous, because for some reason when the album was printed, they had left off his name credit. So every copy of the original pressing has Euronymous' writing on it. And Euronymous, no longer with us, was unfortunately killed by Count Grishnak or Varg Vikernes. So it's cool to have that, he actually wrote on this, and also the copies are numbered. And this copy is number 183 of 1000. So having a sub 200 copy as well is very, very cool. And what else is cool about this particular copy is this copy came with this insert. And essentially what this insert says is there is supposed to be a booklet inside Deathcrush, but the booklets weren't ready for when the first batch originally came out. So if you filled in this form and then sent it away, you would receive a copy of this booklet. And what's even cooler about this is this version, and I don't know if you can see this up there, it says Maniac Productions. This version of Deathcrush belonged to Maniac, the singer on the EP, which I think is ultimately super cool. I really do. This is the kind of thing that I'm like, oh, every box has been ticked with this copy. I couldn't, like, I don't think I could want a better copy. I mean, and it's beat up. You can see the sleeve there's creases all over it. There's ring wear. There's some pen mark on it. It's not perfect. And that's absolutely why I love it. And if you've never seen a copy of Deathcrush before, because it's been reissued quite a few times now on various different colors, this is the original version that comes on just plain black vinyl. And there you go. This is the Posercorpse release, and this is 1987. So yeah, I mean, this is the start of pretty much my, you know, kind of what I consider to be the early part of black metal, late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, I would love some original Burzum releases and some original Deathcrush releases, but price prohibits that they do not belong in the record room right now. Maybe one day, who knows? It's hard to say. I genuinely never thought I'd own an original copy of Deathcrush, but here we are. And again, we'll consult the bat phone one more time and see. So the median price on this record, the median price, £1,117.37, with the maximum price being £1,779.63. Now, I'm happy to say that I paid nowhere near either of those two amounts for this record, but it was very expensive, and so far, to date, is the most expensive record I've ever purchased. Do I regret it? Not one single bit. Well, there you have it, folks. We've come to the end of another episode of The Record Room, so a big thank you for all of you out there for watching. And if you did enjoy this episode, like I said before, you want to see me run down number 6 to number 10, I would be more than happy to talk about that with you. But again, record collecting is a very subjective thing. It all comes down to personal preference and personal taste. What is rare and expensive to you may not be rare and expensive to anyone else. And it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, records are for playing and enjoying, not just for sitting on the shelf, increasing in price. So with that said, stay gold, be good to each other, spin those blackest circles, and always remember to wash your hands.